I used to be friends with Beth and Sarah Jane during high school. Beth, Sarah Jane, and I have been best friends since middle school, and their friendship has only grown stronger as they enter high school. They are a trio that is known throughout the school for their kind hearts and fun-loving personalities. Beth is the leader of the group. She is a confident, outgoing girl who always speaks her mind. She is also fiercely loyal to her friends and will do anything to help them out. Beth is involved in many extracurricular activities, including the drama club, the school newspaper, and debate team. Sarah Jane is the quiet and studious one of the group. She is always top of her class and is known for her impressive intellect. Sarah Jane is a creative writer and often pens poems and short stories in her spare time. Although she is reserved, she has a sharp wit and is always quick to come up with a clever remark. I was always the life of the party. I'm bubbly, outgoing, and always up to no good, but in a good way. I have some musician talent and often serenades my friends with a guitar or ukulele. I am also an excellent athlete and played on the school's soccer team. Despite our different personalities, we share a strong bond. We always have each other's backs, and there is never any drama or jealousy between us. We often spend our weekends hanging out, watching movies, or going on adventures. We are a true example of what it means to have a great friendship. But after graduation, we lost touch. Sarah Jane and Beth got invited into an exclusive private college an hour away. Meanwhile, I was still trying to get into university locally. Let's just say my grades were not totally awesome. 2 years later, I received an invitation from Beth to visit during spring break. They had moved to a rural town outside of the city, and it was a perfect opportunity to catch up on old times. On our first night, I was invited to a very expensive and exclusive bar. When I asked about our Sarah Jane, Beth told me she had gotten caught up in an exclusive club where members were invited by invitation only, and she had been chosen to lead an important dinner. Coincidentally, the next night was when the club was holding interviews, and if I wanted, I could meet the executive staff and Sarah Jane would be there. I had nothing to lose, so I agreed to meet at the same club the next night. Assuming that we were going to go out and party, I brought my favorite pale blue party dress. It has a fitted bodice with a sweetheart neckline, delicate straps, and a flowing skirt that stops just past my knees. It has a mermaid-style silhouette that hugs me before flaring out at the knees. In my most expensive outfit, I showed up to the club, a bit nervous about the entire evening. "Wait here." Beth signaled me and pointed to a small table in the back. "I'll get us some drinks. I know a guy." She smiled and gave me a wink, then sent me on my way to secure a table. The place was interesting as there were no chairs, only tall, round tables, intimate enough for 2 people to chat and catch up in semi-privacy. The room smelled like new money and raw power. No one seemed out of place, except of course me. I stood around and surveyed the room in awe. I saw how the other half lived, and to be honest, I wanted to be one of them. Beth returned with 2 drinks. One looked dark and bitter. The other was light and had a champagne quality. "This one is called an old-fashioned," Beth said. "The other is a pink Cosmo. Take your pick." I picked the pink Cosmopolitan, and we made a polite toast. She started to drink, but turned her head and looked at the back of the room. By the time she had stopped looking, she turned and saw that I had pretty much emptied my glass. She looked at me and nodded. "Yes, that one's addictive." Beth smirked. I looked at her and her drink. She hesitated, then held it up. To Sarah Jane. Without a pause, she emptied her glass and placed it on the table. "Time to see what it's all about. Are you ready?" Beth didn't wait for an answer, but pulled me by my arm and we walked slowly, arm in arm, to the rear of the room. It felt like old times. We were allowed to pass through a hidden door deep within the club and were escorted into a sparse room. Before we entered, we were both given masks to hide our identity. Inside, there were small tables with well-dressed people wearing masks, holding exotic drinks and making small talk. In the center of the room, there was a circular stage that looked like an elevated pool. After all the people quieted down, one person walked on stage and started to describe the events of the evening. There would be a judging of people who were on stage, and if they lost, they would walk off the stage. If they won, they would be invited down inside the pool for further conditioning. Everyone else would have to watch the conditioning until it was over. Those were the rules. At first, I thought that the club was a front for fetishes, maybe divided into different areas, each catering to a different interest. There might be a room dedicated to bondage, another for foot fetishists, and yet another for those who enjoy domination and submission. I heard that a club like that is usually well staffed with knowledgeable and discreet employees who can help you navigate the various areas and answer any questions you may have. I was expecting something exotic about to take place. Only the newly invited were allowed to ascend on stage, as the others in the crowd had lost and were not able to try again. One by one, 5 people walked on the stage. My friend watched while I went on stage. Sadly, after only a few minutes, I was signaled to come off stage. I was not accepted. The 4th person went on stage and was accepted. There was a bright light under the stage, and the person stood there waiting for something to happen. Everyone stood very still and waited for the magic to happen. I was not prepared for what happened next. Suddenly, several tentacles, like those of a squid, shot up from the water and took hold of the person on the stage. They were thick, gray, and very strong. The suckers that stuck out of the sides gripped and secured the body tightly. The person struggled, but there was a loud snap, and the person went limp. The body was pulled down under the water into the above-ground pool. The sides of the pool were clear, so everyone had a view of what was going on, and it was possible to see the body being pulled down. There was a tinge of pink in the water, and after several minutes, the pool lowered and was flushed with the ground where it was unnoticeable by anyone. No one spoke. I was stunned and wanted to leave, but Beth held my arm firmly and walked me to a different part of the room. When we had cleared the room and made it up to more normal settings, she took me to a secluded bathroom and closed the door. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." Beth pulled the mask from my face and then placed her own on the bathroom counter. I wasn't prepared either. I felt chills and turned to her. My face was flushed, and I started to hyperventilate. "What the hell was that?" I started to mutter, but my voice grew louder. "Where the hell am I?" Beth waited a long time before answering. "That was Sarah Jane." I don't know what came over me, but my left hand leaped into the air with a mind of its own. Somehow it became a fist, and a quick jab met Beth square in the mouth. She staggered slightly and rocked back on her heels. After several seconds, she raised her head, and I could see a tint of blood from her mouth. "I want you to see something," Beth said. "Look in the mirror." "Go ahead." Against my better judgment, I looked. My face was flushed and sweaty, and I saw my face. I felt something else. I thought someone was looking at me through my own eyes. I blinked, and the view of myself blinked also. Something was living inside me. "They are called the Neurob," Beth said. "The reason why you weren't picked was because you have one of those in your head now." "You." I started to turn, but started to stutter. My knees went weak and my vision narrowed to a slit. "You sold me out." "You don't understand. They have already taken over most of the eastern part of the world. They are moving in, and we can either serve them or be killed." Beth was shaking her head. Her mouth was moving, but I could tell she wasn't really the one talking. Her eyes were wet, and the blood that was dripping from a split lip was already healed. "Why?" I asked. "Why me?" I didn't have a choice. They know what I know. I know only what they tell me. Beth's body swayed. "There are 3 things you need to know. 1. They are susceptible to alcohol. The stronger the better. Don't do any drugs. They don't care about that. 2. They have connections all over the world, but don't do well in colder areas. If you decide to run, try the Midwest. If you do run, keep on running. 3. There is only one way out." From the small of her back, Beth produced a small caliber gun. It looked like it could be hidden from everyone, even in a short black dress like hers. My eyes grew wide. The eyes within my mind went wide. We were both experiencing the same thing. Where I thought Beth was going to shoot me, the creature that was slowly taking over my body thought that Beth was going to shoot it. To my horror, Beth put the gun to her temple. I didn't stop screaming until my throat became dry and cracked. I finally stopped screaming and looked into the mirror. All I saw was hatred staring back. "We will find you," a voice echoed in my mind. "Not if I find you first." I looked myself dead in the eye. "I am being hunted now and can't stay in any place for long. I don't know how long it will be before someone finds me, but I'll make my last stand on my own terms, and I promise I'll make those bastards pay."